Now, 1 month on from the floods in Lincolnshire, experts are warning that the risk of further flooding remains high. More than 600 properties were flooded. Scientists say that groundwater, that's water stored beneath the surface, has risen at a record rate. And this means that any further heavy rain increases the risk of flood. Our environment correspondent Paul Murphy is in Horncastle for us at the moment. Paul.
Yes, Horncastle, as you'll remember, Peter, one of the worst affected areas during the floods of a month ago. About 80 properties impacted here, a lot of them businesses. And, you know, walking through the town today, many of those businesses were still shut. They're still trying to get things back together. But the wider concern, as you say, across this county is groundwater. It's an additional factor that could, in some places, raise the risk of flooding.
For a month now, these huge pumps have been working around the clock to get water off the fields and back into the rivers. This is Short Ferry on the River Witham, and it gives an indication of just how much rain has fallen on Lincolnshire.
Now, these are the problems we can see, but it's the water beneath this saturated county that's the hidden menace when it comes to flood risk.
The amount of water stored underground in the rock, known as groundwater, has increased significantly in recent weeks.
It's one of the steepest rises I've ever seen. Next time you get a rainfall event, that rain will be more likely to create flooding because the capacity of all the rivers and the drainage ditches is that much less because of all the groundwater that's in it.
The added threat of groundwater flooding is the last thing this county needs. More than 600 properties were flooded a month ago.
We have all the fans on at the moment trying to dry out as quickly.
And Jean's home in Wainfleet was flooded for a second time in 4 years. Unsurprisingly, it is testing her resilience.
I can't describe it to anybody that hasn't experienced a flood. As soon as it starts to rain, your anxiety goes right up, constantly getting out of bed, opening the doors, checking everything, and that happens all the time. It's not a good feeling.
Experts have identified a number of groundwater risk areas in the county.
As you can see, it can flood right up to here.
One of them is Barton-on-Humber, where resident Tren Fisher has been concerned by recent flood warnings.
The problem with groundwater is that nobody seems to take responsibility directly for it. It's out of sight, but get enough heavy rain as we've had in 19 and 21, it soon becomes visible.
With further winter storms likely, scientists are closely monitoring underground water levels.
When it's really high, it can start emerging in basements, overwhelming sewers, and that type of thing. So it's a key thing that's often overlooked, and particularly in sort of Lincolnshire area, you have some aquifers such as the chalk and the Lincolnshire limestone.
This type of flooding is difficult to defend against, but the Environment Agency does offer specific groundwater warnings. Further rainfall on a county that's already been drenched could unfortunately mean a raised flood risk for some communities.
So that's groundwater. Peter, the specific concern here in Horncastle are the town's flood defences, because they failed a month ago, leading to the flooding here. And we learnt today that that was down to the failure of an automated sluice gate. So a little earlier, I asked people here, did they still have confidence in that defence system?
Well, I'm hoping that they've learnt the lesson from the fact that it failed this time, that they'll have something in place.
Are you confident that this town is safe from further flooding?
Absolutely not. Feels like a dereliction of duty by the Environment Agency and other organisations, and yeah, I've lost faith in their ability really to come back and make sure this town will be safe for future incidents.
I mean, I have no idea how the flood defences work, but I do know that it hasn't flooded like that in a very long time, so maybe it was a freakish occurrence of climate change.
Well, I'm concerned for the local businesses and people who've been flooded because they can't get insurance. There's one business that couldn't get insurance in the first place. That business is ruined.
So you can sense a bit of anger there, and I think the general hope here is that we're not going to see another big rainfall event like we did a month ago, especially for those who are still recovering from flooding, still trying to get their lives back together. It's fair to say that across this county we remain in anxious times.
Paul, thank you very much.